CN plunger sign, similar to what...
Language.
Okay.
This is our pile.
We're back in Middleton. This is a little plaque that's in commemoration of Ron Johnston. He was the man who opened the station back in the 90s and turned it into a drop-in center. And out of that, that was when it was known as the Memory Lane Museum. I think that's what it was called. Somebody can correct that if it's wrong, but Memory Lane was the name, and a few years ago it closed and then was reborn as the Middleton Railway Museum with new people involved in the project. This is School Street in Middleton, Nova Scotia, Canada. This railway was the Dominion Atlantic, which was a Canadian Pacific subsidiary. Just for anybody who isn't familiar with the line, we do get viewers from around the world. CN moved the engine here last December, and we were here for the move. It came from a nearby theme park. And CN was involved with that move. They paid part of the cost, I believe. That was cost shared, and the locomotive was owned by the county, and the county donated it. This is a rather rare engine in Canada in that it has a bell pair firebox. Not a common feature here. It did have two different numbers in its working life, and those were reinstalled once it arrived here. It was originally 1274, a Canadian Northern engine, built in the 1910s, I believe, and then towards the end of its career in the late 50s it was renamed 1521. The cab was in pretty rough shape. It did have a wooden cab when it was at the theme park. It arrived at the theme park in the late 1980s, and a wooden cab was just built and installed. And there is some more work to do. These slopes on the tender are pretty ripe. Lord Dragon Eye is getting his eye in the sky here on the go. The train order signal was reinstalled recently to position, and we've got some baggage carts. This, I think, is the knuckle we found down at the Y a few years ago. Platform was basically brought out here with the crushed stone to be level, probably to avoid any tripping hazards. And CN did a very nice job with putting in the track. Some rail was already on site here, so they reused that. The spikes, they look new to me. I'd say that they're new. And this end of track sign is quite modern. That wouldn't have been used on this line when it was in service. This station had a pretty major alteration in its career in that the freight shed was added on in later years. And unfortunately, it did kind of throw off the symmetry of the station. But that being said, they needed the space, and it will provide some very useful space for the museum for an HO scale model railway that will be DAR themed. The land was remediated within the last couple of years. There goes the eye in the sky. there was, I guess there was oil and such that had to be cleaned up. And that was before that was a condition that had to be met before the museum would take it over, because they didn't want to become liable for the cost. The museum was owned by the province of Nova Scotia, and I understand it was leased for $1 per year to the Memory Lane group. Just over here is a Fairmont track speeder. They do have two here. One is currently undergoing restoration. This one here has a fiberglass cab, so that would be the newer type, and the other one that's getting the restoration has an open cab, but it's metal, so it would be older and I think more interesting. This is the area that was all remediated. It's been opened up quite a bit. There was a lot of brush in here before. And then we've got some rail over here. And this truck belongs to the people that maintain the trails here in southwestern Nova Scotia, the former Dominion Atlantic and Halifax and Southwestern lines. And when Memory Lane was running the museum, they did have a G-scale layout in this in the backyard, more or less, of the station. I'm not sure what the plan is for this property now. And Memory Lane had a track. This is the last part of their track that had a very tight curve that swept around from the main line here and behind the station, and obviously that's been taken out. But there's certainly a lot that's been done since this new group has stepped in, and they have some pretty ambitious plans to do a lot more. So looking forward to things to come. This is the other side of the backyard compound where the G-scale was years ago. Station is in need of some paint on here on the backside. I just wanted to get a shot of the stuff that we donated here today. This is a joint bar and a bunch of spikes and insulators. And there was a couple of spikes, but I don't think the spikes are really usable. But they can use the rest of it as they relay track. This is stuff that we've found on our hikes over the past year or two. So we keep finding this stuff periodically, and we can gather it up, pass it on. I'm happy to do that if these guys can make use of it.